Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. So there is that story that I posted about our dear sister. We're saying that she is of a Persian bloodline. So if you are from Zim and if you come from this tribe which is called Varemba, those ones that have the totem of the elephant, please, if you know the history of your tribe, you can also come and share with me your own confession, because that tribe also, it is said to be of a Jewish bloodline. So please come and share with me your own story if you know the history of your tribe, the one that is in Zim, the black Jewish tribe, so that we can also tell this story as well to the world. So the story that I have for you right now, it comes from one of our listeners. The message reads like this: "Hello, my brother, how are you? Can you please post my own story as anonymous? My brother, I am a woman who's staying in her native country here in Zim. I have my own confession that I want to share with you. I am a woman who is aged 44 years old, and my confession, it goes on like this. There is a pot, this pot that was left for me by my mother. I was given this pot by her elder sister soon after the passing away of my mother. Growing up, we always knew that there was just something that was wrong with our mother. But if your parent is doing this witchcraft stuff, you can never agree. And when someone tells you that your mother is actually a witch, you can even refuse. But it has reached a point in my life that I am now like my own mother, and I am the one who is causing all of these misfortunes that are happening in the family. And I do not like the way that I am living my life. But what can I do? Because these things, these demonic spirits, they were inserted into my body when I was still very young. I am the firstborn child in our family. Before me, yes, there were some kids that were born, but they were all stillborn babies. And the thing that I was told soon after the passing away of my mother by my mother's sister, who gave me all of these items that was used by my mother when she was a witch. She told me that at the time when she got married to my father, she didn't want to be a witch. She refused totally to be a witch. Well, the problem with that was that this thing of her being a witch, it is something that goes with their bloodline. From my mother's side, it is a bloodline of witches, and since she was refusing to be a witch, she had to sacrifice some of her kids. But then some of the witches from her family, they tricked her. So after she had sacrificed 2 of the pregnancies that she was carrying, when she found out that still there was a lot of requirements that was needed, she said, it is far much better that I become a witch, because she was so much in love with my father. She then said, for me to kill my own husband, that I cannot do. It is far much better that I become a witch, and at the same time I can enjoy the love that my husband is given to me, rather than for me to sacrifice my own husband. Later on, you will tell me that I still have to become a witch. That is how my mother became a witch. When my mother became a witch, she was then given this same pot, the pot that she left behind for me by her own grandmother. She went at that time when she was pregnant, and this was like when she was carrying me in her womb. When she went, it was said that my mother's grandmother told her that she was carrying a girl child, and then my grandmother said that she wanted my mother to name me after her. So the name that I have, it is the name of my grandmother. So this was like passing down this witchcraft down the bloodline. Even when I am about to die, I have to choose one amongst my daughters, or any amongst my cousin sister's daughters. I have not yet decided which amongst all of these kids that are there in this generation, the one that I want her to become the witch in the next generation. After my mother had been given that pot, she then returned back to that village where she was married, where she was staying with my father's relatives. But there were some ancestors that were now fighting with her. These were my ancestors, my father's late relatives. Their spirits were the ones that were waking up from the graves, coming and fighting with my mother. So for my mother to defeat these spirits of the dead, what she did was that she then spoke with some of the witches from the same village, and then she revealed herself to those witches, and then she was given more powers so that she can defeat some of my father's late relatives, their spirits that were waking up to fight with her. My mother sacrificed a lot of my father's relatives, and each and every time when there was a funeral in the family, my mother, what she will do is that when people will be attending the funeral, at that time my mother was already staying here in Harare. She never went to the village so as to attend any funeral if any of my father's relative would have died. What my mother will do instead, for 3 days, this is what the devil will do. There is no joy when you are serving the devil. If there is someone that will be sick, my mother will start to go on her prayers. Yes, we do pray, but we do pray to a different God. We do not pray for other people to receive blessings, but we pray so that others can receive curses and to suffer. So whenever my father would receive a phone call from back home, and when they would tell my father that one amongst his relatives is sick, from that day, my mom, what she will do is quite surprising. And at that time, that was when we started suspecting that my mother, there was something that was wrong with her, because we used to sit at the kitchen table. That is where we used to have our supper. You know what my mother used to do, Brother Nashi? When we were sitting at the table, if there was anyone who was sick in the family back in the village, my mom, after dishing out the meal, she will take her plate, then she will take her chair so that she will start eating whilst she will be facing the other way around. Then my mother's sister, my auntie, told me that the reason as to why my mom, whenever there was someone who was sick in the family, the reason as to why she would take the chair, then she will face the other way around so that when she is eating, she won't be facing us. It was because my mother, she was already splitting the flesh of that person at that time who was not yet dead. So she will be cutting out the flesh, handing it over to some of her friends. So she didn't want to face us when she was doing this evil act. Well, in the physical world, we thought that maybe our mother was busy eating the same food that we were eating, but in the spiritual world, she had a big plate that was full of meat, and she was busy slicing the human flesh, giving it out to her tokoloshis as well as her friends. And my mother, she never went to attend any of my father's relatives' funerals. If anyone would die back in the village, my mother will never go there. And what my mother will do is that she will stay locked up in her bedroom. And when we were kids, when we were still growing up, we always wondered why our mother will stay locked up in her bedroom. She will only come out of her bedroom once that person would have been buried. But now I understand. The first time that I understood the rituals that my mother used to do, when I saw that serving the devil, there is no rest at all. There was this other brother of mine, me and this brother of mine, we didn't like each other at all because he tried to force me to do some things that I didn't want. And I always had this grudge in my heart. This brother of mine then migrated to another country, and my brother, he fell sick, but I was not involved in his sickness. He was a man who just loved women. When he went there, he started chasing after those women from that country, and eventually he fell sick. When this cousin brother of mine returned back from that foreign land where he was staying, he was really sick, and I felt no mercy for him. This was like the perfect timing for me. This cousin brother of mine, when he was still in his youth days, he used to be someone who loved to pray a lot. That is why we had hated each other, because he had forced me to try and go and give my life to Christ. Christ, but I could not do that because if I was going to go and give my life to Christ, it meant that I was going to die because I am connected to this clay pot that was left behind for me by my mother. So this is where the grudge was coming from that was there between me and my cousin brother. When I heard that he had fallen sick, this was the opportunity that I had been waiting for all my life, because whenever I would try to attack him, I could not get to him. There was another force that was protecting him. When I arrived at the village where he was staying, but we were doing this in the spirit, I didn't go there physically. I arrived there in the village with some of my friends. We then spoke with some women who are the leaders, the spiritual leaders of that place. After we had spoken with them, I then decided to give them one amongst my kids, and then they granted me entry into my cousin brother's compound. I entered into his compound with my friends, and this was like the first time. That is why the other witches from that village, they didn't want to grant me access, because I was still learning how to destroy or how to take someone's life in the spirit. So they said that this is too risky. That is why they said, if you want to do this in our village, then we are going to make a pact amongst one of my kids. Amongst my kids, I was supposed to choose one that I was going to give to them, but I have not yet sacrificed them, but I am owing them. When the time comes, they will come and they will be demanding for the flesh of my child, and I would have to choose amongst my sons. As for my daughters, they are the ones that I also want to give these powers by the time that I am going to die, but I have not yet made that decision. I then entered into my brother's bedroom. When I entered into his bedroom, I found out the wife, she was sleeping on the floor. She had a Bible right next to her, and this showed me that she had been praying. And I laughed out so hard, my brother, because this couple, my cousin and his wife, they had made me to suffer for a very long time. This was like the first time that I had managed to sneak into their bedroom. So many times whenever I would try to come and sneak in their bedroom, I would find the wife either sitting just reading the Bible or praying. But on that night, that is when everything worked out in my favor. I entered into there and I told my brother's soul to leave his body so that it can come and enter into that clay pot that I was holding, the one that was left behind for me by my mother. And I was even surprised because his soul obeyed me. This was a man whom I was afraid of, even though he was younger than I was, but I was afraid of him because everywhere he was, every time when he would come back home, he would be preaching and telling everyone about the greatness of his God. But now I was more powerful than his own God. I was the one who was his God now, summoning his soul to leave his body and to enter into this clay pot that I was holding. My cousin brother's spirit did not dare to disobey me because it saw that in the spiritual world I was now powerful and dangerous, and there was no savior that was going to come and rescue this spirit. Then the spirit obeyed me and entered into my clay pot. I then returned back home, and we were filled with joy, me and my friends, as we flew going back to the place where I was staying with my husband. When I arrived back home, my brother, that was when I was told that I had to do the same thing that my mother used to do whenever someone was about to die in the family. I said, what am I supposed to do? That was when I was told that no rest, there should be no rest, and this is my persecution that I have to face for taking a life that I did not help to create. So this angers God whenever you take another person's life. So I had to suffer. The demons that I used to bewitch, they persecute me, so not as to anger God. the things of the spirit, they are quite difficult to understand, but this is what I did. So when we were told that my cousin brother had passed away, everyone expected that I was supposed to come to the village, but I could not come to the village. I was locked up in my bedroom. As for my husband, I do not even count him amongst the living, for he is neither dead or neither is he alive. He is just like a zombie to me. Whenever my friends come late at night to call me so that we can go to this graveyard where we usually have our meetings, just like my auntie taught me, what I do is that when I wake up, I usually go to bed wearing one of my night dress, the one that I love the most. If I am wearing like an underwear underneath, I have to remove it. This process, I have to do it physically. When I walk out of bed, then I remove the underwear. Then I walk towards the place where my husband would be placing his head on the pillow. If he is facing the other way, then I turn around his body so that he will be facing me. Then I just step a little bit from the bed so that I can have some space. Then I will bend over as if I am picking up something. Whilst I am doing that, I will then lift my night dress so that I can fart in his face. I fart in his face. This is to make sure that he won't wake up. My husband will only wake up when I return back from the graveyard, where I will be busy with my friends. My husband does not even have the slightest idea that I am a witch. Whenever I do my ceremonies, I first fart in his face. Oh, dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear sister, but she is saying that she is ready to give up everything. She wants to repent because these things, they do not benefit her. She said, I am actually the one who is causing my relatives not to prosper in life. I am the one who is holding them back because I am someone who is filled with the spirit of jealousy. It's like I am holding them with a rope. Whenever I feel like it, I will pull them back so that they don't progress in life. Yo, Africa.